Good Thursday morning, everyone, and welcome to our first Facebook Live of the 2019 football season. It's a podcast also today, a roundtable of our This Week sports staff. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Frank DiRenna, Jarrod, Ulrey, and Scott Hennen. We're going to preview the high school football season over here over the next little while. We have our first games coming up a week from tonight. The majority of teams will start a week from tomorrow night. We're going to break down league races, discuss top players here in Central Ohio, and discuss topics such as who we think the best teams will be, the best players will be, who's going to win the leagues, etc. So, I suppose that the best place to begin is who are going to be those best teams, who will be those best teams. You know, we do a preseason Super 7, we do a regular season Super 7. Who might be the preseason poll champion?
First off, Dave, I want to say it's good to be back with you this year.
It is.
Always enjoyable doing these with you. I think we're going to have a great time this year. We're going to go out to a lot of great sites, and should be a lot of fun. And I think probably the easiest place to start is probably Pickerington Central.
Usually seems to be, doesn't it?
I mean, they won state 2 years ago. They're state semifinalists in 2016 and last year. And guess what? They've got a lot of great players again this year. I mean, what a program they've built out there. I think you could start with, they've got a 3-year starting quarterback in Demetri Crenshaw back. They've got Lorenzo Stiles, phenomenal athlete in the 2021 class, who we're going to be hearing a lot about the next couple of years. I'm sure he's going to go to some kind of major school, probably as a defensive back, could be as a wide receiver. They've also got a great defensive lineman named Abraham Alibi, who has some offers from some mid-majors, and on top of the fact they have Ty Hamilton, Ohio State recruit.
That's pretty good.
So, I mean, that's a pretty good place to start right there.
I guess Tilly Davidson, I know they've lost quite a bit, but they've only been 1 star back on offense, 5 on defense. But with that scheme, with that coaching staff, you always expect them to be part of the race at the end of the season.
They've only had, 1 or 2 losing seasons since Coach White took over. I mean, we know they're going to be solid.
And he's had these situations before we had to replace a lot of players, and he still finds a way to have a winning product.
And Dublin Kaufman, they have a bunch of blue chip recruits. Mike Drennan, several Division I offers, including reportedly Alabama. And they have Jameel Williamson. He's a slot receiver for him. He's pretty strong. AJ Kirk, who is the stepbrother of some guy named Mike Doss. Maybe people have heard of.
Not bad.
And so they have a new quarterback. His name's Connor Matthews. He was on the Division I state championship lacrosse team last spring. He's going to bring a running aspect to the Kaufman attack at quarterback. So could be really interesting to see how things go there.
It's funny you refer to lacrosse, and not just to lacrosse, but to track as well. I mean, there are so many guys that we're going to talk about who have won state titles in lacrosse, won state titles in track, even basketball for some of them. It's just funny how the multi-sport facet goes with this. So, who else, when we vote on this preseason top 7, might make you guys' list? I'm still trying to figure mine out myself.
It was tough this week. It was very tough. I'm hearing good things about Westville Central. They've got a quarterback that's junior, 6'6", Judah Holtzclaw, and he's supposed to be the real deal. So, and they've got Ricky Hyatt, who's being looked at by several schools, defensive back, running back. So, they might be a surprise team in Central.
The last few years in Division I, we've talked a lot about Liberty, Orange, and Hilliard Bradley, and Hilliard Darby. Those are kind of 4 staples of, and also really, Pickerington North. Yes, Pickerington North was only 6-4 last year, but they were really only about 10 points away from being 9-1. So I think those are kind of the baseline of some of the best programs in Central Ohio. I'm sure all those teams are going to be good, and we're going to break those teams down here in a little bit. In some of the other divisions, I think we have to start in Division III with Hartley. Now, last year they lost in the regional final to Eastmore, but this is, and Coach Birchfield has had some great teams out there. He's won 3 state titles. They've had some other seasons where they played in a championship game, state semifinals in some of the smaller divisions. They're in Division III, but I really think this is one of their best teams that he's been able to put together. It's really deep. They've got a quarterback, Miles Fleming, who's on his way to Minnesota. and then they've also got some other just stable guys like Karan Anderson and a few other guys like that. They're going to be a very, very, very good team, and I think we're going to be talking about them late into November.
Now Hilliard Bradley, they've gone to the playoffs 4 times in the program's history. I mean, I'm sorry, 3 times, and it's been the last 3 years. This year they're going to try to go for a 4th time, and each time they went to the playoffs, they had a different quarterback, and that quarterback earned all state honors. This year it'll be a junior, so he'll have a chance to play 2 years, possibly. His name's AJ Mergen. He was on the basketball team, starting guard for them. He's a quick kid. He's going to give them a running element to the quarterback position, and they're going to be really good. They have Chris Mayfield on the defensive line. He's getting over some knee problems, but he's verbally committed to Michigan State. They have a lot of athletes. They should be really good.
Okay. And excuse me, if I neglected to mention this, at the end of the season, of course, we will do a Super 25 team. Now, that's a long way off. it's quite a chore, a labor of love to put together, but we will put that together at the end of the season. As I said earlier, we're going to have a Super 7 that will be on the website also every week during the regular season. Always a lot of movement there as teams play themselves in and out of the top 7 and earn those, also garnering votes, however we put it there. Now, heading on to the leagues. I guess we start in the Ohio Capital Conference where the majority of our schools lie, and we go to the Ohio Division first off. Now, the first team we mentioned off the bat was Pickerington Central. You know, they've obviously won the league many, many years here. You know, you've got a very good Pickerington North team that has a new quarterback who came in this year. Gahanna's always competitive. You've got Reynoldsburg in there that, I mean, when we were talking, because they're going to play one of the teams I preview, Upper Arlington, that this is a pretty good team again, and a big stretch for them. Jarrod, you cover the majority of this league. What do you see first atop the Ohio Division?
Actually, it's interesting. I mean, Reynoldsburg and Lancaster were the teams that won that league last year, which it's going to come down to how these teams. I mean, Pickerington Central, I think, would have to be considered probably a couple steps ahead right now as we head into the season with all that great talent. But there's going to be probably 2 playoff teams out of that other group, possibly 3, but there's a very good chance that there'll be 2, and it's going to come down to how the matchups end up between Gahanna versus Reynoldsburg versus Lancaster, Gahanna versus Pickerington North. You know, how some of these matchups end up. That's going to be a huge determining factor on which teams make the playoffs, and I think all 5 of those teams are going to be good. Like Lancaster probably has the least back of those 5. They have a couple of linemen back, but they did lose the majority of their offense. So maybe they'll start the season a little bit behind those teams. Pickerington North, you mentioned they've got a new quarterback this year, Gio Thomas. He was actually at Pickerington Central as a freshman, and then he was the quarterback for Washington Courthouse last year. Now he's transferred back to Pickerington North. There's still some question about whether he's going to be eligible for the first 5 games or for the entire season. So hopefully we're going to find that out over the next several days or so. But for the time being, he's a really good quarterback, and he gets to throw to Chris Scott, who is a Division I wide receiver. And they have Jack Sawyer, and how they. I think last year maybe he was. We all knew how good he was last year. But he's going to really start popping into the spotlight now that people are finding out more and more about who he is. He's a great defensive lineman. He's 6'5", 235 with really good speed for somebody his size. I mean, he is a special athlete, really special.
Yeah, and he's a junior.
And he's only a junior.
2 years left.
And he's only a junior.
Yeah, on the football field and on the basketball court, where he was pretty decent as well last year. They were regional runners-up.
And the other team I didn't mention, Gahanna, they have a very, very difficult schedule. If they can navigate their non-league schedule and go into the league season with a chance, they can be a playoff team as well.
A team that you cover in this league, Grove City, any steps forward for them with Coach Hardy?
You almost have to feel sorry for them being in such a competitive league, such a tough league, but They were winless last year. He thinks they'll be better this year. He likes their offensive line. They're bigger, stronger. So they dedicated themselves in the off season with the weight training. So I mean, they were winless last year, like I said, but I guess you can only goes up. Only place goes up.
There's 3 teams in the league that neglected to mention that made the playoffs. 2 more won 6 games.
Yeah.
So that's what 5 years 6 in that division. Moving over to the Ohio Capital Conference, Capital Division. That was a really good league last year as well. A little top heavy. Canal Winchester went 9-1 and still didn't make the playoffs in a very good Division II Region 7. New Albany had a pretty good year. They won their final 4 games after losing to Canal in the league opener for both teams. And they fell short of the playoffs. They were down around 13th in the region because you had so many teams that went 10-0 or 9-1 in there. Canal brings back a lot of their skill guys. Quarterback Jack Beeler. You've got a multi-threat in Tyler Toledo. It's more of a question of what is he not going to do for them. Got some good talent on the lines. New Albany's breaking in a new quarterback as well. Those 2 teams open the league against each other. Yeah, I mean, welcome to league play, I guess. I mean, you're going to find out where you are, especially those 2, because they're probably already thinking about that game just a little bit.
I want to add that, and maybe you're going to talk about this, but I think Groveport actually will be very solid again this year too. They return a lot of guys. They were 5-5.
Yeah.
Took a big step up last year, so they're definitely going to be a team to watch in that league. And of course, Newark has Bill Franks back coaching them.
Yes,
It's a great
yeah.
story. I'm not sure how competitive they can be this year. He's returned there. He coached Newark from 1997 to 2001. They had some of their best seasons actually of the last 25 years under him. They had, I believe, they had an 8-2 season or a 9-1 season one year with him, and then he was at Newark Catholic for about 16 years, and now he's back in Newark. So, and I got to talk to him a couple of weeks ago. And as energetic as you guys have all met him, a really energetic guy, brings a lot of passion. I mean, they were sitting, all the guys outside were just kind of like chanting, being really excited about football. So it's good to see.
Well, and Hennen and I were both around him when he coached you were around him when he coached at Newark. I was around him more when he coached at Newark Catholic in a different place. But, you're right. I mean, what he brings to his programs, I am really curious to see what kind of a step forward they can take. And, they were down for a lot of years. They were good, and then they went down. They've had some levy issues, some moves and things like that. And, but yeah, I mean, boy, if they can be competitive and if Groveport can improve on 5-5, that Groveport-New Albany game in Week 10, not only mentioned Groveport and Canal in Week 7, right after Canal plays New Albany, they have to turn around and play their biggest rival. I mean, that could make that league race very interesting.
Yeah, when Bill Franks coached there the first time, actually, they had the 2nd largest student body in the state of Ohio, and of course now, they're not very. They're one of the smaller OCC schools, so that shows the population shift and all that. And when you lose that kind of, when you have less players to pick from, sometimes that makes a big hit on the program.
We'll see what happens in the OCC Capital, and we don't want to forget, Big Walnut, Franklin Heights, see what they can do as well this year. Moving on over to the OCC Cardinal, we've talked about a few of these schools already. I mean, you mentioned Hilliard Bradley and what a program they've become over there in recent years. I got to talk to Derby coach John Santagata last night because I'm previewing their Week 1 matchup against Olentangy. They're excited with what they've got. I mean, they're retooling on the offensive line a little bit, but boy, they bring back a lot of other important guys as well.
Yeah, they do. He has a machine, almost like Brian White does at Davidson. These kids learn this offense from the time they're in the 4th grade all the way up. He's been there long enough that he has that program really rolling full throttle.
They've Darby has gone out a few times, maybe earlier in the playoffs than they would have liked. Maybe this is the year that they break through. They've got Connor Jones. He's a really good running back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And what is he? A 3-year starting quarterback?
Yeah.
He said. And I had to joke with John when we were talking last night. It's like they bring back one starter on the offensive line. It's the center, and that's probably the position you want. It certainly is. It's Dublin Scioto, one of your schools, was 7-3 last year. I know I only saw them once. You saw them much more than that, but I'm sure that they're poised to have a big say in what happens in that league too.
Yeah, Coach Johnson lost quite a few, but he's got some skill players back. Chad Ray's a new quarterback, played 10 last year, but Coach thinks he can handle the pressure of being a quarterback. They lost Tobias Thomas, who's transferred down to Lakeland, Florida. But again, they've got some weapons back, and he's looking forward to this year.
Jerome was 5-5 last year.
Jerome was 5-5, but they lost quite a bit too. Guess which loves Ryan Miller, who's a junior quarterback. Thinks he might be one of the best passers in the area, but just working on the comments around him right now.
And Delaware was competitive last year. We'll see how they do this year.
So we Scott, what second season?
Yes.
Up there. I mean, they're a team that it just seems over several years they've always shown a lot of promise. It's just getting over the hump has been the big issue with them. So we'll see how the Cardinal fleshes out. Now, we at this table are pretty familiar between three of us with the OCC Central Division. You know, Dublin Kaufman and Hilliard Davidson have been really the best teams in the league for a long time. Upper Arlington's hoping to be right behind them. Let's start with Kaufman, though. You guys' thoughts on them?
Well, you know, the interesting thing about Kaufman is this year, I believe, you know, they say they've been run-oriented the past few years, but they should really be run-oriented this year with Connor Matthews stepping in at quarterback. He gives them that element. Plus, they have Mike DiRenna, as we discussed before, and they also have Musa Diallo. He's the senior, and he's like the thunder to DiRenna's lightning. He just barrels over people, and he's got some moves too. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that. And they also have a stout defense. I mean, they always find fast linebackers who find their way to the ball and knock people out of bounds.
Kaufman was a Division I, Region II runner-up last year. Don't want to not mention that. They lost to Olentangy Liberty in the regional final. Frank Davidson, we talked about Brian White a little bit earlier. They're always right there. And they have their system. They fill it well. Those players know what they're doing. Your early thoughts on the Cats this year?
They made it to a regional semifinal last year, lost to Pitt Central in the second of two meetings, lost both games. Both games were really close. Like I said, he lost quite a bit. He's got one starter back on offense. He's got 4 on defense, but with that system, they just find a way to compete. And I know he doesn't think it's going to be a good year, but he said that before, and
they've turned out
they go to regional semifinals.
Well, I know
you cover Central Crossing, and Trevor White has. Is this a year that maybe they take a little bit of a step up? I believe it's year 3 for him.
They're excited this year. I mean, they don't have their quarterback back. They have a new guy, Drew DeYarman, who played some last year. They've got a couple really, really good athletes who stand out all across the field, some versatile guys. You know, the key for them is going to be getting off to a good start. I mean, they've struggled in the league. The thing is for them, I mean, I think they're seeking their first winning season since they made the playoffs several years back. I mean, I think their only league wins the last couple of years have come against Westland, and they won one against Upper Arlington, but it was an official capacity, not on the field. I'm really interested to see, if they can jump up and see what they can do against the teams that are clearly in the top tier of that league. And one that we did mention was Upper Arlington.
Who has a new coach?
Yeah, who has a new coach. There's a tough act to follow, and I'm not necessarily talking about the field. I've got to follow you in covering Jeremy Scally because he spoke very highly.
Very good guy.
He was an assistant at Davidson to Brian White the past several years. I want to say 11 of the past 14, and he takes over for Joel Cutler. And he's got some important guys back as well. Their quarterback is back, and Jake Levy. They've got a couple running backs back, in Eli DeArite and Chris Weistel. They've got some receivers back. Liam Kiefler is going to lead that unit, and some important guys along the lines as well, and in the linebacking unit. I had to chuckle when I asked him back in January, and I think he did too. You know, what's the UA offense going to look like with a Davidson assistant coming over? Well, I mean, he didn't shy away from the fact that they're going to depend on a run, but they're going to throw the ball too. And that's something that they're looking forward to doing. I think maybe, outsiders would be skeptical and say, okay, how often are you going to throw? He said, hey, you base it off the run, but you've got to be able to keep people off balance. And we see that with a lot of teams we cover, but it'll be interesting to see where UA goes. They've got to start beating Kaufman and Davidson. They haven't done that I think, since 2013. They haven't beaten either team. That's got to change. And if it does, then they've probably got a pretty good shot to the playoffs, and I believe they're back in Region 3 this year instead of Region 2. That line now moved a little bit north of where it was in the past, I want to say, where we had Reynoldsburg in 2, and a school 3 miles from them was in Region 3. But that makes it interesting. It gives more of our teams a shot to compete in Division 1.
In Region 3, we know that there's 18 teams, and they're all from our area, so Central Ohio is guaranteed 8 playoff spots from that region. Then in Region 2, you've got it's the further west part of Franklin County, which is Kaufman, Bradley, and Jerome, Delaware, some of those schools, I believe.
That Bradley is not even in the same region as Davidson and Darby.
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
just a little bit
southern-
further over. So
Yeah.
they got it divided somewhere. It's kind of a tricky thing
They're the
that the
southernmost
OHSAA
school.
has to deal with.
Well, and am I wrong thinking Liberty's in Region 3 this year?
Yeah, they are. That's
Okay,
right.
and that's Delaware County.
Right.
So that line even goes up a little bit.
It's like the OHSAA grabbed a few of the Franklin County schools and put them up with Toledo schools, and they have Cincinnati, and then Newark is over here. They're the first east one, so they go up with Cleveland,
Yes.
and then Central Ohio. It's just kind of a tricky thing for them to figure out because there's a disproportionate number of Central Ohio teams that are in Division One, and you don't have any from Southeast Ohio, and you don't have any from Eastern Ohio. So it's just kind of a tricky little puzzle that the OHSAA has to figure out every year.
Well, and the Cleveland area goes through 2 regions as well. I mean, you've got that one that goes from Toledo almost all the way into Cleveland, and then you've got their own region, where it's so stacked up there. And speaking of Olentangy Liberty, not that I meant that as a segue, kind of stumbled into that, the OCC Buckeye Division, Liberty, Orange, Olentangy all shared the league championship last year. Liberty was a state semifinalist. Jarrod, you cover the Patriots. What do you think as far as their chances to build on last year, or at least equal what they did last year?
Well, participation numbers wise, they've got about the equivalent of probably about 3 football teams. Like they've got like over 100 kids. I think maybe even grades 10 through 12. Like it's incredible. Now, as far as experience in some spots, they're going to have they have a few spots where they're replacing some people, but they're going to be big. They're going to be fast. They've got, I think on his roster he had like 36 wide receivers listed. So there's tons and tons of options right now with that school. So it's just a matter of how do they want to use it. This test they have in week 1, and we'll probably talk about that some more next week against Pickerington North. That's going to be a really interesting test for them because they lost to him last year, but yeah, then they went ahead and they were able to recover, make the playoffs, and go on another long playoff run. So.
Yeah, you cover
State
another one.
semifinals. State semifinals. That's a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Orange. Orange is replacing a lot of players. Most of their backfield. Jake Venturi is back as their lead. Well, he wasn't their leading rusher. He was their leading rusher back. I guess the quarterback was a leading rusher by about 10 yards last year. But anyway, it should be interesting. But like Liberty, they have a ton of talent to choose from. They're big, fast. It's going to be interesting, and they're kind of in the same situation. I believe Olentangy has a bunch of holes they had to fill, right?
Yeah, they did. They have a quarterback back, Trent Maddox, who was the backup last year. Behind Connor Hagg, they've got you have to reload a little bit of running back. It's funny that you mentioned the numbers. I was thinking this as soon as you said about Olentangy Liberty's numbers. Olentangy has, I think, 72 is what Marsolis told me in 10 to 12. They were hit most by that split with Berlin last year. And that's the way that it's really been the last couple of splits. Well, actually, I guess every split that they've had. Because they broke into Liberty first, then they broke into Orange. Olentangy lost more kids. Then they've lost more now because of Berlin opening. They're pretty excited about what they can do. They continued to put up really good offensive numbers last year. The big thing for them, their big emphasis was defense. In that you look at that playoff game that's probably going to make people grit their teeth in Lewis Center for 20 years when they think about it. That they had Winton Woods down 21 at the half and lost the game basically because of one player, Mayan Williams, who I will go on record, it's the best individual performance I've ever seen in the game, rushing for over 430 yards. I think it was 6 touchdowns. That was their big thing in the offseason, devoting so much time to tackling. They overhauled the defensive staff. They have a defensive coordinator now, a new defensive coordinator. They wouldn't have one before. But it's going to come down probably to that 3-week round robin, it feels like, when all those Olentangy schools play each other. And we're going to mention Westerville Central here in a minute. I want to throw a stat out here. It kind of floored me. I had to add it up 2 or 3 times. Since this OCC Buckeye came into existence in 2016, the Olentangy schools are 26-1 against the Westerville schools. I had to check.
This is the last year for that.
Exactly, yeah, because it's going to realign again. We get to learn the new alignment for 2020. I had to go back and refer to your story. Westerville Central got that only win. I want to say it was over Orange a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Might have been a Thursday night if I remember correctly. Yeah, Central, Coach Morrison, I guess he uses Liberty as a measurement stick to see the progress of his team. He'd love to be in that company someday. He thinks this might be the team to do it. like I said before, they've got a 6'6" quarterback, Judah Holtzclaw, who's supposed to be the real deal. He's been doing a lot of passing camps over the summer. He's already getting looks. Ricky Hyatt Jr. is a defensive back, running back, probably their top running back. Miles Williamson, another threat. So they're looking forward to this season.
I think Westerville South might be a little better too. They, I believe they won the double Kaufman 7-on-7
Yes, they
back in
finished
July.
7-1.
Yeah, I
They
think
made a
they're pretty
big
happy
deal out
about
of
that.
it.
So
I guess everything's a positive.
that's right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Westerville North, we'll see what they can do as well. They're in their second year under Coach Brian Johnson. They bring back the quarterback, Ulrey Dover. They bring back some running backs and some linemen as well, though they lost a lot of linemen from last year, although they bring back a couple talented linebackers as well. And their big thing is going to be breaking through. They haven't won a league game since this OCC Buckeye came into existence, so we're going to see what the Warriors can do against their Westerville brethren in the Olentangy schools. And I think Central and Orange is a Thursday night game in Week 8, which seems to be the marquee week every week now. And North plays South the same night, oddly enough. And then there's some game the next night that some people aren't happy that's taking place at the same time as high school football. I guess
Ohio State.
we'll all live. Well, that game will probably be in the first quarter at 10 o'clock, so we'll probably be able to watch the whole thing. Now, a reminder, as we reach the bottom of the hour, that you are listening to the This Week Sports Football Roundtable. We are reviewing the 2019 season. Our Central Ohio football preview guide, I believe it's 80 pages, will be coming out next Thursday in this week, and I've been told also next Thursday in the Columbus Dispatch as well, and you'll be able to pick it up at some places around town. Continuing around the leagues right now, we go to the Central Catholic League, where Hartley was a regional finalist last season, and then the other 4 teams basically almost had identical records. They either won 5 or 4 games. You mentioned Hartley right off the top. That tells me you think they're the favorite in the CCL. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I assume that's what you're thinking going into this year.
It's safe to say that, and I think that probably all the coaches would agree with that. That they're just a little bit of this senior class that they have is kind of pushed Hartley a little bit above, a step ahead of the other teams. The thing about that program right now is that he's grabbing from lots of different middle schools on the east side. He's got and they're getting a very high quality of middle school player coming into their team right now. And, it's not just a 1-year thing. I mean, obviously they made the playoffs, I believe, like 9 years in a row. They've also got like a sophomore named Daniel Tucson, who he's probably going to go big time. Like he should go Big Ten, I think, in a couple of years. He's only a sophomore, really exceptional young talent. And I think it's, Coach Birchfield probably already has an idea of whose quarterback's going to be next year, whose quarterback's going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe even 4. I'm not sure.
That's how you sustain a program.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as far as the other schools, the ones that I follow closely, DeSales, Watterson, and we'll talk about Reedy a little bit, although they're not really. To say they're a CCL team, I mean, yes, they technically are. They have an agreement with the CCL where they play one of those teams, and they do a rotating basis. So they're playing St. Charles for the next 2 years, and they're also an auxiliary member of the MSL Ohio. So Reedy is under Coach Joel Cutler now, former Upper Arlington coach, and I'm fairly confident that they'll be improved. They got Jack Foley back at running back. They have a pretty tough non-league schedule too, so we'll see how. I'm not really sure how great of a fit Reedy is for the MSL Ohio. I mean, it's a league that has, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but they've got like Whitehall, which is a Division II school, and some schools like that. I don't know. I mean, I think. Yeah, I mean, they have some decisions to make in the next few years whether they want to stay in that one, whether they want to become a member or just stay auxiliary just for schedule purposes or what. But and then DeSales and Watterson they were both around. I believe they're both 5-5 last year, with Watterson beating DeSales at the end by a touchdown in the last week. I think both teams will be. There's a good chance that both teams will be improved. Now, how they handle their non-leagues is going to be and how they do against each other, obviously. But they both have pretty tough non-league schedules. So if they can figure out a way to go 6-4, particularly for Watterson because it's in Region 11. I mean, DeSales is in Division II, Region 8. So I haven't really studied that region that close, but it was pretty tough to make the playoffs in Division II last year.
When that region now has Canal Winchester,
yeah,
because things have realigned a little bit.
They've changed a lot of stuff around because Region 7 last year was frankly, it was just not very fair. I mean, the fact that you had like 6 teams that were between 7-3 and 9-1 that didn't even make the playoffs. It's OHSAA had to have looked at that and said, we got to change that.
But the thing, and I wrote a story about this last year, is like, what do you do? I mean,
It just changed the map a little bit.
yeah,
like
I mean, that's really the only thing you can do, short of taking the top 32. And I'm not trying to take this afield into some other discussion, but you know, do you take the top 32 statewide? Well, okay, then what do regions matter? It's a tough,
a lot of travel.
It's a tough
to do that,
choice.
so they got to try and fix it.
It really is.
Just change it a little bit every year. But and then, I mean, what do you think of St. Charles, Scott?
Well, it's their second year under Coach D. Coker. They have Andy Mason back at quarterback. He started the last 4 games after injury, thrust him into the lineup last year. You know, they're in the second year under that system. They will be improved, I believe. You know, they can't. It's hard for them with their academics to get a lot of the athletes that some of the other schools got. You know, that's the way it is. But they, you know, it's always academics first there, and they should be much improved this year. I expect them to have a winning record, if not be 6-4.
I have to ask about Reedy. How excited is Coach Cutler to be back there? I mean, that's somewhere where he had a lot of success in those 2 years. Kind of came of age as a head coach. They did some really good things.
Yeah, and he's always said that he feels really comfortable at a faith-based school like Reedy. He's gone in and you know, I wouldn't say he's changed a whole bunch of things, but he went and he found himself a quarterback who's not even really have a lot of experience playing football. Darius Parham is going to be his quarterback this year, and he didn't play football the last couple of years, but he's a junior and he's a great athlete. And Cutler apparently recognized, hey, why don't we put this kid out here at quarterback? We can maybe have him make some plays to kind of help take some of the pressure off Jack Foley. Jack Foley had 256 carries last year, and he's not very big. Like, he's a little bigger than me.
5'6", I think.
He's a little bigger than me, but not much.
Yeah, so that's 26 carries a game on average.
Yeah,
basically. I mean, that's a heck of a workload for anybody.
So, you know, I don't know exactly how they'll change that, but maybe they'll pass a little bit more.
All right. Now moving into the City League, another one that you know well. Northland won the North Division last year. Eastmore won the South. Eastmore made the playoffs, as did Walnut Ridge. You had Centennial that was a 7-win team last year. Marion Franklin's been one of the city's better programs, and now they have a new head coach, Brian Halfley, who I want to say is on staff at Pickering Central.
That's right.
I believe, has been replaced by Dave Laxo, who used to be one of Trevor White's assistants at Central Crossing. Jarrod, obviously you know the city very well. What are some of your thoughts on the top teams over there this year?
You kind of mentioned most of them. You know,
Took your thunder away.
Yeah, that's okay. In the city north, I really like Centennial this year. I'm not saying that they're the odds-on favorite. I mean, they went 7-3 last year. They returned their quarterback in Jalen Gilbert. They've started getting more and more confidence. I mean, this is a team that for about a 20-some year period, I believe they won like 48 games over a 20-year period, back before they got Dante Gooseby as their coach. It takes a long time to build a program in the city when you're one of the city teams that's not one of the better teams, that's not naturally one of the strong teams. It takes a very long time, and it's been step by step, and I'm really excited to see how good they're going to be. I mean, they opened with Grandview, and they've traditionally not done very well. I think they lost them 28-0 last year.
Yeah,
So, and not saying that, you know, they might not necessarily beat them, but maybe they'll close the gap some on them. And if they can set themselves up well heading into City North play when they play Northland in Beechcroft. Those are going to be very good games. I don't know exactly what's going to happen in them, but Northland lost a lot. They do have their quarterback back, although he's not quarterback anymore. Khalil Branham is back at his natural position. He's committed to Kentucky, and he's back at his normal natural position at wide receiver. So basically, how players around him fill the holes, and if they have a quarterback that can get him the ball, they'll be very solid again. Beechcroft has a new coach, Lee Snyder, but he was an assistant last year, and I'm really impressed with his organizational skills. I'll tell you, I mean, I think he's got that. You know, he's their fourth coach in 4 years, but I think that this does have a chance of succeeding for them. Now, as far as the city south, you mentioned Eastmore and Walnut Ridge. Walnut Ridge has the most back of anybody, and they have a great coaching staff. Eastmore has a great coaching staff as well. Walnut Ridge, they have Keon Magwood is a senior for them. He's got offers from lots of mid-majors, and he's gonna, as a wide receiver and defensive back, and he'll go to Division I. And then they've got a few other guys back. Now they're replacing their quarterback, Isaiah Murphy, who threw 29 touchdowns and 4 interceptions last year. So that was a big part of their success. And if they can find somebody that's going to not make mistakes like him, they're going to be a very, very tough team to beat. Eastmore, on the other hand, replaces everybody. They have Cameron Long back, and they lost everybody. So now, Coach Miranda, there might not be a coach in the City League that I respect more. I mean, he's such an incredible coach. Like, he can coach basketball, he can coach football. He's great at coaching everything, and he's really impressed with their freshman class. So the future is very bright for them. We'll see how they're able to handle this year. And I know you know Coach Flaxo very well out in Marion Franklin on a personal basis, and he's only got 34 kids, but they'll be solid. They'll be a good team this year.
How about that school in Refugee Road? Anything about them?
What, Independence?
Yes.
Yeah. They will. Took me a minute to finish.
They're going to run the ball.
They're going to run the ball.
Yeah,
Yes. And that's another very well coached team. Mm-hmm. And and a Coach Douglas, and they're going to be they'll be competitive for sure.
Now, Eastmore was a regional runner.
They were state
semifinalists last
Had
year.
one of
They
their best
shared
seasons
the
ever.
regional.
Yes, one of their best seasons ever. A really special senior class they had last year.
Yeah.
Really special. That doesn't mean they can't duplicate it with younger guys, but it's just going to be a more difficult effort for them this year to be able to have that kind of a season. It's going to be more of a growing type of regular season, and if they can, they've had a lot of seasons where they finished 9th in the region over the years, like 4 or 5. So if they can figure out a way to string together maybe a 7-win season, I think they can make the playoffs in Region 11. So interesting, yeah.
We will head on to the Mid-State League Ohio Division now, and a team you know very well is coming off a pretty darn good season, the Whitehall Rams. What do you see about them and their beautiful new facility out there?
It is a beautiful new facility. A team that has a lot of athletes and a lot of speed, that new turf can only help their speed. I know they lost our Super 25 captain from last year, Ray Melbury, but Coach Lightfoot likes the skill players he has coming back, just not as deep as they were last year. That's his concern. They've got one player back on the O-line, Stephon Ellis, and besides that, after that, everybody's new. So that's his concern, is the depth in the offensive line.
And they made the playoffs, of course, last year after winning the league. Some other schools that did very well. Another one that you know well, Academy.
Academy, of course, when you talk to Coach Lightfoot, he says Academy is a team to beat. And Coach Miller at Academy says Whitehall's a team to beat. So I expect that. Academy should be better than they were last year. Hoping to get back to the playoffs. Quarterback Brady has second year as a starter, and they should be decent this year.
Do you remember offhand when they play each other?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, that'll be a big game whatever week it is.
September 20th.
Okay, so that's
early.
Yeah, that might be the
deal.
first league game.
Yeah, it's the first league game.
What a way to measure, kind of like Canal and New Albany on the OCC Capital. Scott, you know the Grandview Bobcats as well.
Yeah, they have a lot of people back, including Luke Lachey, who's an all-state wide receiver / D-back. He's moving to tight end this year, where he will play in college. He's verbally committed to the University of Iowa. They have Kyle Casey back in his 3rd year quarterback. That should be good. Charlie James will be a running back for him. And Darian Davis started the last 2 years at linebacker. He'll be a key at running back this year. For the last 2 years, he's been behind Hudson Jump, who was a 2-time state champion in wrestling, and he's going to wrestle at Ohio State now. Coach Peters expects a lot of Davis this year. He thinks he's going to open a lot of eyes. He's fast. He's physical. He can give them a good running element to the game.
And this is a league that was good not only on top of the teams we mentioned, but London you had as well that won 11 games last year, of course, counting their playoff performances. Now they're in a conference that's more oriented to the Springfield area, heading out to the west. Buckeye Valley and Harvest Prep are now in that league. Harvest Prep's going to be playing the big boys now.
I don't know. It's a very strange alignment. I mean, you've got Division II with a Division VII school. I don't know how long that'll last. We'll see. We'll see how long that lasts. If it's the next couple of years or whatever they'll decide about that. I will say that I think Harvest Prep will be very competitive. Now they've won 32 consecutive MSL Cardinal games. That league was a lot more Division VI, Division VII. So how they handle the teams they've done fairly well when they played Bexley over the years. So how will they handle playing Whitehall? I don't really know. Now they should be very competitive with the Grandviews and the academies and some of those type of schools. And Buckeye Valley's a 5-5 team, so it's hard to tell how they're going to do in this league. I mean, they were in a league that was not as good as this league. The league they were in before, it was all D4s and D5s mostly. So now Harvest Prep has really good numbers for them. They have like 40 kids, which for as tiny of a school as that is, that's great, actually. And Coach Milan Smith, there might not be a better small school coach around here than him. He has a system that he's got out there. I know there's always been the stipulation, Harvest Prep and basketball, they get all these recruits and stuff like that. It's not really it's not the way that it appears. I mean, they did get a couple of transfers in this year, but they were more like guys that were going to be backups. And I think they've got a couple guys in from Groveport that were going to be backups or something. And they did get one recruit from Groveport or one player coming in named Esco Davis, who would probably be a starter for them. But other than that, it's guys that have been in Harvest Prep system for several years, and I would expect them to be a solid team.
Now, how long they stay in that upper league, I wonder if that depends on how competitive they're going to be.
Very possibly.
Or just the impact that you take. I mean, those numbers, you talk about that, but that really can wear a team down.
And it's really strange with the MSL, with what the MSL's been going through, because they just lost 2 teams to 8-man football. Now, I don't know if there's any plan for Rosecrans or Millersport to add 11-man football in the next couple of years to come back, but so the MSL's in kind of a tough situation right now. They've got this MSL Cardinal now that has, and maybe you were going to bring that up, I don't know. Worthington Christian is in that league with Bern Union and Grove City Christian, and I mean they've only, I believe it's only a 5-team league this year, so or maybe 6. Fisher, yeah.
Fairfield Christian.
Yeah. And I think Worthington Christian actually will be a very solid team. They only lost Harvest Prep by 4 points last year.
Made a pretty deep playoff run, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Worthington Christian doesn't. Yeah.
Okay, I must be thinking of something.
Yeah. But Bern Union has been kind of one of the stronger teams in that league too. So, and then I don't really know exactly what you know about Grove City Christian right now.
Well, they'll be better, but Coach Patterson definitely thinks Worthington Christian's the team to beat. They've got a pretty decent running back named Christian Slager. He's a linebacker, probably the best player, but I know he's looking to improve.
This 8-man football, you brought it up. It seemed like a lot of times this summer, every couple of weeks you see, especially in Northwest Ohio, that these programs don't have enough numbers and they're going down to 8-man.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a little scary.
It's interesting. I mean, I don't know what to think of. I've never been around. I lived in Texas for a few years. They had 6-man football way out in the western parts of the state. 8-man football here. I mean, I guess it's better than not fielding a program at all. I mean, maybe that is something that a Millersport does, even though they haven't grown appreciably, even being near the lake. I mean, they had to drop the program a couple years ago, and I think they might have added soccer. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but I think they did, which doesn't help.
I mean, you were talking about how there's going to be a high state football game on Friday night. I mean, 11-man football means a lot to communities.
Sure it does.
I mean, there's no other high school sporting event we cover. I mean, I guess kind of boys basketball, but this gets better attendance than boys basketball. I mean, pretty much even a team that's not doing very well probably still going to get a couple thousand people at a game on Friday night.
ThisWeekSports.com if you want to read my thoughts on Ohio State having the Friday night game against Northwestern coming up in Week 8. One league we have not touched on, it'll be the final league that we touched on, is the Licking County League. You've got Licking Valley, who's usually pretty good out there. Watkins Memorial brings back, they're going to have a competition at quarterback, but they bring back some guys on the line. Licking Heights, what can they do with a new coach? new coach because he's been in the system for 14 years, and they've got some talent coming back as well. Any thoughts, gentlemen, on the Licking County League?
Well, Granville, I think, is also going to be a very solid team. They won their first playoff game last year under Coach Justin Buttermore, who you know well, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a Davidson
another
assistant.
former Davidson assistant. And I think that they'll be really good again. Licking Valley did lose. They lost quite a bit, but they've got a system out there. I mean, you know they're going to be a solid team. I think they've only had like just a few losing seasons in Randy Baughman's. I mean, this is his 38th season. I mean, talk about a system. Yeah, they'll be good. Both teams will be good. Yeah. And Watkins Memorial, I've heard good things about them too.
Well, they've got an interesting competition at quarterback between a senior and a junior. Robbie Montagues and Liston Schroyer are vying for the starting quarterback job out there. They've got a lot of experience on a big offensive line that averages up around 300 pounds. I mean, they're big and big kids. I mean,
What's Johnstown got back to that?
Johnstown, they went to the state final last year and lost to Orville 49-34. They lost pretty much their whole backfield to graduation. Most of their points. Cole Workman will take over at quarterback. His brother Cody was, I believe, a 3-year starter a few years back for him. They have an offensive lineman, who also plays defensive line, Wyatt Walton, and he's an OU recruit. He's verbally committed to OU. Stu Davis and Jake Lusk is on the defensive line for them. Coming back, they had like close to 40 sacks between the two, so it should be they should still be strong, and in the Cardinal division they should really probably sweep again.
Right. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? Anything we have not touched on that deserves to be?
I was just going to say the regional alignments to me, like I kind of touched it a little bit earlier, but I think they're very interesting in the fact that Division I, we're gonna almost know who the best team in Central Ohio is. Yes, I know Kaufman and Bradley are in that other region, so I mean there is the possibility that we could have 2 regional champions out of Central Ohio, just like we had, I believe it was 2 years ago when Pickerington Central and Liberty both won.
Well, last year.
Or last year, that's right. So, maybe this is the year. I mean, Kaufman's awfully good. Maybe this could be our year where we could have a Kaufman versus a Pickerington Central State final or something. Looking really far ahead, and I know we shouldn't do that, but
That's probably a coach who deserves something good to happen to him. Coach Crabtree,
Yeah.
that'd be good for him.
We've all wanted to see that for a long time. I mean, Central Ohio's had some state champions over the years, but we've never had a Central Ohio versus Central Ohio state final.
Well, actually, Licking Valley played Big
Well,
Walnut
I'm sorry,
a couple years
Division
ago.
One. Yeah, I believe that was Division 2. I want to say
3.
That was 3. I think that
Valley
was
versus Big Walnut.
Yeah, back in about 2007. I want to say
6 or 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been 07 then. So I mean, and Amanda Clear Creek played Academy in Division 5. I want to say it was driving rain on Black Friday in 2003.
2003
it was. Yeah, and it was. Yeah, that was a great game to go down 30 degrees and it's pouring down rain, trying to get interviews afterwards. So, but we'll see if we can get that at the high school level. But we've got 15 weeks until that can possibly happen. Well, that will do it for this edition of the This Week Sports Roundtable. Certainly, we hope you enjoyed it. I hope we were able to pass along some great knowledge to help you as we get prepared for the season. We will be back in a few weeks to discuss other fall sports, and Jarrod and I will be at Upper Arlington on Tuesday afternoon for our weekly Facebook Lives. Those will be at 4 p.m. Tuesdays. That's a time change from last year. Week 1, coming up this Tuesday, we're going to be at Upper Arlington to talk to new coach Jeremy Scally before the Golden Bears open a week from tomorrow night out at Reynoldsburg. Again, don't forget, we've got the football preview guide, 80 pages strong, that will be out in This Week and in the Dispatch next week as well. So we will announce also our locations for Facebook Live throughout the season on Twitter and Facebook. For Scott Hennen, Jarrod, Ulrey, Frank DiRenna, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.